Hi everyone, I hope you're all keeping well. Thanks so much for taking the time to sign up for this session. So it's the first time that we've launched a webinar series, and so when we put it out there, we wasn't sure what the uptake was going to be. However, the response has been incredible from you guys, with over 160 people signing up across these two warehouse sessions that I'm running. It's great to see both new faces as well as ones that I regularly speak to. So everything that's happened this year, we really do appreciate your ongoing support. To give a little bit of background about me, so my name is Aaron, I'm 23 years old, and I've been working as a product specialist at Current for just under 3 years now. So day to day, I'm involved with providing one-to-one demo and training sessions, as well as providing phone and written support to our users. And so if you ever need any help, you can pop up on the green help bubble in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's very possible that it could be me answering your question. In terms of the session today, we're here to talk about everything warehouse related. So we all know in this industry how important it is to be accountable of all of your assets and ensure that everything is where it's supposed to be. But if you're a small to medium-sized business, then thinking about a formal operations process may seem intimidating or difficult. So this session, it is designed for everyone. So whether you're brand new to barcode and you're initially looking at getting everything set up, or if you're an experienced user and you're just looking for additional tips and tricks, hopefully this session will give everyone the opportunity to learn something new. So in today's session, we're going to take a look at the different ways of tracking your products within Current RMS, how availability is calculated. We're also going to spend a lot of time looking at barcoding and scanning items out of the warehouse, as well as keeping things organized in general and maintaining accurate inventory data. So because there's quite a few people in here, I won't be able to review individual questions as they come in. However, if you do have any additional questions, you can always just pop up on that green help bubble, and either one of my colleagues or myself will reach out to you after the session to give you those answers. We will also be taking a recording of this session. So this will be sent out to you straight afterwards so that you will have the ability to rewind and replay things at your own leisure. We do have a range of people from across the world in this session. And so my system, it is set up in American English. But if you're new to Current, I just wanted to let you know that you can set up the system in your own language and currency so that it looks exactly how you want. But yeah, there's quite a lot of things for us to cover today. So let's jump straight into everything. So the first thing that I want to talk about today is setting up your products. So your products can be created under the resources section. So if we click into here and then products, we can see a list of all the inventory that we rent or sell within our system. And to add a new product is as simple as using the green option in the top right-hand corner. So when you create a product within Current RMS, there's two main ways of being able to track products. So we have bulk stock and we have serialized stock. So what I'm going to do is just show you an example of both. So I know that this particular cable here is a bulk stock product, which we can see down the right-hand side. And so when something is set up as bulk stock, it means we're just simply looking to track everything by quantity. So if we scroll down to our stock level section here, which is where we can tell the system how many of those cables we have, I can just simply enter in the quantity. So I have 57 of these cables. But that being said, we do also have the ability to serialize products. So I know this particular MacBook Pro is a serialized product, which we can see down that right-hand side again. And if I scroll down to our stock level section, rather than having just the quantity that we own, what we actually have here are individual asset numbers. So these are barcode numbers. We call them asset numbers in Current RMS. And so this allows us to individually track each asset wherever it is across the life cycle of a job. So in terms of setting up asset numbers, there's three main ways that you can do this. So in terms of adding stock levels, all you need to do is click into the individual product page, and in the bottom right-hand corner of the stock level section, you can click add a new stock level. And so we do have manual asset numbers here. So if you already have barcodes on your products, you can, or for example, you've got your barcodes done externally, you can just scan them into the system to create them. We do also have automatic asset number in here as well. So this is a recent addition to the system, and you can set this up within your system setup. So all you need to do is toggle this onto yes, and the system will also ask you for a predefined sequence here. But once you've set all of that up, you can actually just tell the system, make me 100 unique barcodes here and now, and the system will then just go ahead and do that for you. The third option we have here as well is to be able to import these asset numbers via a spreadsheet. So if you do want some more guidance around importing your asset numbers, if you already have everything on a spreadsheet, just let us know and we can give you a template on the green help bubble to help you get started with that. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of actually setting up those asset numbers within Current. And once you've set those up, we can also look at generating barcode labels through the system. So to generate barcode labels, all you need to do is click into the individual product page, and down the right-hand side, you have the ability to generate your barcode labels down this right-hand side. So if I do this, what this will do is this will generate a unique barcode label for each individual asset number that I have within my system. And these barcode labels, they are also completely customizable. So we can get these looking with your branding, with your logo. We can look at resizing these barcodes. So if, for example, you have cables and you want to have a very small barcode, we can look to make those adjustments for you. And I know that you guys are going to have a lot of questions around actual hardware. So what barcode scanners to use and also what printers to use. So what I've done is I've put together a quick little document that gives you some advice on barcode scanners. So in terms of the scanners themselves, if you're looking to use those barcode documents from Current that I've just shown you, you will need a scanner that recognizes code 128 barcodes. So the barcodes that Current generate are code 128. The main requirement for a scanner is they operate as a keyboard wedge. So what a keyboard wedge means is that when you scan something, it effectively simulates typing it out on a keyboard. And also you will want a barcode scanner that finishes with a carriage return. So what that means is it just simply means that you're hitting enter on your keyboard. So when you're scanning equipment, you don't have to continuously go back to your workstation to press enter on your keyboard. Your barcode scanner will automatically do that for you. And if you are looking for in-house barcode printers, the main thing that we're looking for here is a printer that can handle PDFs, because Current gives you the barcode labels in a PDF format. So as long as it does that, you should have no problem getting it to work with the system. I have recently spoke to some of our long-term customers to actually get some details on the specific makes and models that they are using. So if you are interested in that, please just pop up on that green help bubble in the bottom right-hand corner, and I can give you that information about what they said, in terms of the exact models that they use. So hopefully that does point you in the correct direction. It is worth noting that due to the variety of makes and models that are available, it can be difficult for us as a team to provide specific support on scanners and printers. So hopefully this does point you in the correct direction, but if you are really struggling to set up your scanner, you may want to reach out to the manufacturer to get some more guidance on that. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of barcode scanners and printers. So if I quickly share my screen back with you, and if I go back into my page, so that's pretty much everything in terms of actually setting up your products and then setting up your barcodes within the system. And what I want to move on to next is kits and packages within the system. So you can start creating kits and packages against your products just by scrolling down, and it's just below stock levels in our accessory section. So kits and packages are super important when you're putting quotes and item lists together, because in this example, rather than me having to add a MacBook Pro and then add a charger on individually, so 2 different clicks, I can actually just tell the system this charger is linked to the MacBook Pro, so when I add it on, it will automatically add the charger as well. The first thing to clarify here is that all of these accessories, they are outright products in Current with their own availability figures. The reason why that is because, say if we have enough MacBook Pros, but we don't have enough chargers, the system will still highlight that to you and say, we are short of chargers. I just also wanted to jump into the configuration here to show you how this accessory is set up. So at the top, we've got the product that we're linking to the MacBook Pro. We then have the quantity, so with every one MacBook Pro, how many chargers go out with it. We also have the option for this to be zero priced. So what this means is if this charger has a price, let's just say it's $5 per day, it will add $5 to the charge total of the job. However, if that's set to yes, it will add this charger on, even if it has a price, at no additional cost. So that's really handy if you have any kits and packages that have set package prices, because you can just put the price against the package, and then you can have everything part of that package as zero priced. What we also do have here is default, mandatory, and optional. So this determines how the charger is automatically added to the job as part of that package. So when it's set up as either default or mandatory, it will automatically add the charger alongside the MacBook Pro. The difference between the two is that mandatory is vital. So if this goes out with a charger, on the job itself, we can't delete it off or reduce the quantity. However, default provides the flexibility to do that. So when it's set as default, it will automatically add the charger, but job by job, if we want to say, actually, we don't need the charger, we can just delete that off. We then also do have optional here. So as you guys may have guessed, that just means that it's not automatically added, but you have the choice to add it on a job by job basis. So there are three options there. And the other three options that I just wanted to cover here as well is accessory, safety item, and component. So this determines how this charger shows up on your customer facing paperwork, so your quotes and your invoices. So when something is set up as an accessory or as a safety item, it will always show this charger on all of your customer facing paperwork. The difference being is that a safety item also does indicate that it is a safety item in brackets. However, something that's really cool here is when you set this charger up as a zero price component, because when you do that, it will actually pick up this charger and hide it from any customer facing paperwork, but it will still show this charger on your internal list. So on your warehouse list, it will still say, we need the MacBook Pro and the charger to go out on this job. But on the actual quotes and invoices, it will just show the MacBook Pro without the charger underneath. So if you do have lots of kits and packages that go out with lots of cables and things like that, you can set those up as zero price components so that they still need to be included on the job. But on the customer facing side of things, it keeps your quotes nice and concise. So that's everything in terms of putting together kits and packages. And what I want to move on to next is tracking the availability of your products. So if you are ever looking to reference the availability of your products, we do have this snapshot of the product availability in the top right-hand corner. However, Current does track the availability of your products on any given hour of any given day. And so from the individual product page, you can scroll down to the right-hand side to your availability here. And if I click into this, as you can see here, the availability of my products, they do change over time as things start to get booked out onto jobs and as things start to come back as well. So from this view, you can change this to a one-day view if you wanted to. So if you wanted to get an hour-by-hour breakdown, you do have that option. But also within this view, if I scroll down here, I can see exactly what jobs this product has been added to. And if we do serialize our products, we can actually see what individual barcodes have been allocated to each job at any given point in time. So the system is incredibly detailed in the way it does track your assets. And that's why we would recommend serializing your high value items, because instead of the system just saying you have 5 of these and we're not sure which of the 5 is out on a job, we can actually see the specific asset that is going out. So that's looking at an individual product, but what I want to show you next is the global availability page. So this can be found by going to resources and then availability. So we can click into here to see availability of a range of products. So just like any product page in Current, you can filter this by product groups or by tags to narrow down the view for the information that you're looking for. But if I just update this view, as we can see here, this shows me the availability of all of my products across my entire system. So to clarify the colors here first, so green is good. That means we've got plenty available. We do have this orange color. So this is when we're potentially running low on inventory or we have a stock warning. And then we do have red. So red is when we have a problem area or an overbooking of the product. You'll also notice this turquoise color here. And this turquoise color, it fills up a bit like a bar chart as we book more products out onto jobs. So as you book more products out, it will fill up. And so it's just showing you how many of your products are being utilized. In terms of the numbers here as well, so the number in brackets is the amount you own, whereas the number above that is the amount you have available. So you can always go to this page to reference your product availability for a range of products. A really critical feature of this page is the shortages only slider, because as of today, over the next 28 days, I can actually update this view and see where all my product shortages or availability clashes are across my entire system. So this is a great place to get a pen and paper out and say, I need to buy in or I need to sub-rent all this equipment to ensure I'm fulfilling all of the confirmed bookings that I have coming up. So although you can reference this on this page, the system will also immediately highlight any shortages to you when you're building an order or a reserve quotation. And so from here, the next thing that you guys may ask me is, how does the system actually calculate the availability of these products? And that's what I'm going to get into next. So that is based on the dates of your jobs. So in terms of actually building bookings in Current, we can do this within the opportunity section. So if I go into here, so we can start building all of our bookings here. And the reason why we use the term opportunities is because we have 4 different stages of the opportunity. So a little bit later on, we will have a sales webinar that focuses on all of these different stages and how you can make the most of your sales processes within Current. So if you are interested in that, keep your eye out for the webinars being advertised in the future. But for today, I'm just going to jump in at the order stage to say, this is a confirmed booking that I'm looking to create. And what I want to focus on here is the availability date. So if I just give you a quick example of how I could construct a job. So let's just say that this is going to be a weekend job where everything is being delivered on the Friday. The actual equipment is in use on the Saturday. So it's a 1-day rental. And then everything is being picked up on the Sunday. So in this particular example, we would want to ensure that the start date and the end date of the rental incorporate all 3 of those days. The reason why that is because the start date and the end date determine the availability of all of your products on the job. By default, it would also charge for 3 days as well, but it's very easy to override that. So all you need to do is use this chargeable day slider and tell the system, instead of the 3 days by default, I just want to charge for the 1 day that the products are in use. And this extended scheduler here is really helpful for the warehouse team because within here, we can enter in things like prep dates, load dates, and we can actually create our own customized views so that our warehouse team know exactly what they need to prioritize in terms of prep. So a little bit later on, I will show you how to create those views so that you know exactly what you need to get done on any given hour of any given day. So that's in terms of setting up the job in terms of availability. And what I want to get on into next is once the order actually hits the warehouse, because for a lot of you guys in here, you may be warehouse operatives. So as far as you're concerned, what you'll get is a list of equipment on a job. So you're not involved with the sales processes, you're just involved with prepping everything and ensuring that everything's out the door in as smooth a manner as possible. And so in terms of actually prepping things, there's 2 different ways you can do it in Current, depending on what you want to do. So if you would prefer to work from a document, you can generate this under the print section down the right-hand side. So we've got a picking list here. And if I just quickly show you this, so this is our default picking list document. So it's just a list of all the equipment that needs to be picked for this particular job. These documents are customizable as well. So an example here is I've got one that has tick boxes on. So again, if you're looking to have these documents customized, just let us know and we can help you with that. But what we're going to spend a lot of this session talking about is the detail view, because the detail view is like a digital picking list. So it's very similar to the document we just saw, apart from at the top, we do also have these barcode scanning tabs as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of how these tabs can be used. So a lot of our customers have different processes for these different tabs, but I'll give you a quick example of how some of them may use these processes. So the first step we have here is allocate. And this is where we tell the system the specific asset that is going out on this job. So we would take a look at the first line item here. So we need an Allen and Heath. But at the moment, there's 16 different ones that could be sat on our warehouse shelf. So this is where we could actually go into it and say, okay, so we need to pick this item. So you would go on into your warehouse, select the exact one that's going out on the job, and then just scan the barcode on the product to say, this is the specific asset number that's going out on that job. So this is really good for individual accountability. So you can just kind of go through all of your warehouse, pick up your items and scan them onto the job. So that's allocate. We then have prepare next. So this is an optional step within the system, but this could be used maybe when the asset has been loaded onto the delivery truck, ready to go out on the job. So we can scan that to mark it as prepared. And so at this point, if this asset got damaged or lost, we could immediately go back into this view and say, well, it was marked as prepared, but it never actually arrived at the job. So at that point, we may look at the delivery driver for accountability of that damaged or lost item. But on the flip side of that, we do have book out. So once the items have arrived on site or they're in the hands of the customer, we can scan that piece of equipment to say it has been booked out. And again, if it gets damaged or lost at this point, we know that it's in the customer's hands. So we're looking at them for accountability of that damage. So they're the three initial stages here. And at this point, I did just want to pause and discuss the other features of this detail view. So one feature that we do have here is the set container function. And this is really helpful if you have multiple delivery trucks that the equipment is going out on. So let's just say that everything in broadcast is going to go out on delivery truck 1. What we can do here is we can tick the boxes for everything in that group. And within the functions tab here, we can go into action and set container. And we can say everything here is going out on truck 1. And what that allows us to do is, A, it allows us to inform everyone exactly what truck each piece of equipment is on, but we can actually order this by container as well. So we can immediately see truck 1 and we can see the total weight of that truck as well. So we can ensure that we're not overloading that truck in terms of weight. The next thing that I want to show you here is sound schemes. So that can just be found next to this finalize check-in button. And we do have 4 different sound schemes within the system. So if you're in the same room as someone scanning equipment on the same job, you can have different sound schemes. So if you ever get an error, you know immediately that it's you and it was you that scanned it, so that you can easily identify that without kind of having a conversation between the two of you to see exactly whose error it was. We do also have the eye icon here as well. So this updates live on the job and shows you what you're scanning against what other users are scanning. So again, if you're both working on the same job and something mysteriously changes, it will highlight it in yellow for you so that you know that it was someone else's action that changed the status of a certain item on the job. We also do have the ability to lock groups as well. So if I just reorder this back into my usual product groups here, say if you have multiple people again working on the same job, what you can do is say if I'm prepping audio but someone else is prepping broadcast, I can actually lock this group here and say I'm only working on audio. So when I try to scan equipment, it will only scan it from the products that are in the audio group. And the last thing that I just wanted to show you here as well is free scan. So free scan is super helpful if you have any last minute additions that you need to add on to this job. So all we need to do here is go to allocate and go to free scan here. So the usual process within Current is to add the general product to the job, and then it gets passed over to the warehouse team and they would scan the individual asset numbers. But if you have any last minute additions, you may just want to scan this straight onto the job. So you can just pick up the item on your warehouse. You can just immediately scan that, and it will automatically add that straight to the job for you without you needing to contact the sales team and say, can you add this product first so then I can allocate it? You can do that all in one go. So when you free scan equipment onto a job, it will also add, say if this MacBook Pro was $100, it will add $100 to the price of the job. However, if you don't want to change the price of the job, all you need to do is lock the pricing down the right-hand side prior to doing that. And that will then add this on at no additional cost for you. Okay, so they're kind of the main points of interest within this detail view. And what I wanted to do next is go back into this kind of operational part of it and talk about actually closing off this job. So as I demonstrated earlier, you can scan things one by one to allocate equipment and to book things out. However, if you don't want to use barcoding, it's not a requirement if you don't want to use it. So if I'm confident that everything on this job has gone out, all I have to do here is tick the boxes, and within functions, I can use actions to book everything out here. And that will just bulk action everything for you. And once we've booked everything out on the job, the next step is to start looking at checking it in once it returns back to the warehouse. So this is where we would recommend scanning to check things in if you do serialize your stock, just so that you've got full accountability when things do come back. So we can just scan that equipment and it will mark it as checked in for us. The color coding of this view is very important as well, because if you're scanning things one by one to mark them as checked in, if anything is missing, it will still have that red booked out label, so it will stand out in amongst that sea of blue so that you can easily identify that something is missing. For the purposes of today, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tick the boxes here and check everything in to say everything has returned back to us in the warehouse. And from this view, you can actually check things in as damaged or lost as well. So say, for example, this particular DJ console and speakers was damaged. We can just click into that using the blue arrow and individually check it in. So within here, we can say, actually, this wasn't okay. This was damaged. And you can leave a damage or loss description there as well. So that just informs everyone exactly what happened to that product. And when we update that, that will then pick up that particular product and move it over to our quarantine section. So the quarantine section is where you will store anything that is damaged or lost within the system, and it will temporarily take it out of availability and put it to one side within the system for you, depending on what you want to do with it. So if it's damaged, you may want to put it in for repair. So you may want to leave it unavailable until it has been repaired, at which you can then return it back to stock once it's, once it has been repaired. But likewise, if it's been lost, you may want to put it in the quarantine to see, maybe you give it 7 days to see if it turns up. But later on, you can say, actually, we haven't found it. We just want to write that piece of equipment off. So in that quarantine, you can basically decide whether to return it back to availability or just to write it off and say, we're not going to get it back in its 100% form. And the final step of this process here is to finalize the check-in. So once you've marked all of this equipment as checked in, what we can look at doing here is actually returning it back at a certain date and time. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're creating a job in Current, everything will be taken out of availability between the start date and the end date. So in this example, for all 3 days, it will be taken out of availability. But look, let's just say that everything returned back today rather than tomorrow. We can actually tell the system this within this return at date. So we can say it came back at 10:30 tonight. And when you do that, it will then make those products available as of 11 p.m. the same day. So you can actually send things out on this same day, without causing any availability clashes there. We also do have the ability to move outstanding items to a new opportunity. So what that means is if you have any red booked out items still on this job and you're looking to bill for an extended rental, when that's set to yes, it will pick up all of these red booked out items and move them to a new opportunity for you so that you can bill for that extended rental and also account for it in terms of availability so that everyone knows that it's still out for another week or how long it may be. But once we finalize that opportunity, that will then complete off all of the products on this job. And what you may notice here is that this order is still active. So I thought I'd include this because it's quite a regular support question that we get. So in terms of actually closing off jobs, you will need to ensure that all products and all services on the job have been completed. So we can see here that we've completed off all of the products, but in terms of the services, we still need to action these. And we can do this within the services view. So the detail view is where we can deal with our products operationally. But within the services view, we can click into here and we can see that we have a lighting engineer added to this job. And we do have very similar stages to the detail view. So the first step we have here is allocate. So we've told the system we need a lighting engineer, but we can allocate this to tell the system the specific lighting engineer that's going to be on this job. So let's just say it's Ben in this example. We can allocate this to him to say Ben is going to be the lighting engineer on this particular job. And we also do have some additional steps here for accountability purposes. So we have confirm. So that may be if you've contacted Ben to say, are you available to do this job? He's come back and said, yep, I'm available. You've penciled it in the diary, and you can just confirm that so that all of your other users can see we've secured a lighting engineer for this particular job. We do have book out here, so that could potentially be used once Ben's arrived on site, just a confirmation that he is there, he is doing the job. But finally, we do have finalized services, and this is the only mandatory stage that you need to do. So you don't have to use confirm or book out. You can just finalize him once he's completed the job, and that will then complete the service on the job. So as you'll see there, that will then complete off the entire order within your system. So from a current RMS point of view, what this means is if I go back into my opportunities view here, this will show me everything that is live and upcoming at the moment. So everything that is relevant to you guys. However, if you do want to reference back to any old jobs, all you need to do here is click on the word view and filter the selection for any inactive jobs. So like I say, all you need to do is click the view, filter that selection, and you can immediately look back at any jobs that have been cancelled, that have been completed. So if you do have any recurring jobs, you can go back into those completed jobs and clone them down the right-hand side to create a carbon copy of that job. So if you have recurring events, that's super helpful because it saves you having to actually rebuild these jobs. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in terms of closing off the job. And I just wanted to talk about check-in again, because although you can check in items individually on the jobs themselves, what you can do as well is you can go to global check-in here. And so global check-in is super helpful. Let's just imagine a scenario where we've had 5 different jobs that have come back into our warehouse over the weekend. So we get back into the warehouse on a Monday morning and we just see a massive pile of equipment on our warehouse floor. So we don't know which job each product has been allocated to. And this is where global check-in really comes into its own, because instead of you having to sift through everything and kind of say, okay, so this was on this particular job and kind of sort through everything, all you need to do is just start scanning everything on your warehouse floor. And the system is smart enough to identify exactly what job the product was on, and it will check it in for you from this view. So again, that's super helpful if you do have multiple jobs coming back at the same time and you're not sure what job was allocated to which piece of equipment. Right, okay, so continuing on our tour of the system, the next stop we've got here is serialized containers, which can be found within the resources section. So if you go to resources, we have serialized containers here. And so as we saw earlier in the webinar, we can use accessories to link products up with other products. And so that's really helpful if you want the flexibility job by job to select which ones are going out. So we could have 15 different map books, 10 different charges, and you can just select exactly which ones are going out on the job. However, serialized containers are really handy if you have any assets that are regularly housed together. So let's just say that we have cases that regularly have the same amount of lights in, or maybe we have racks that always have the same mics in them. What you can do here is you can serialize your cases and your racks, and we can actually scan them in here to start a serialized container. And so, yeah, the main difference between containers and accessories is accessories are linking products up with other products, whereas serialized containers are linking up asset numbers with specific asset numbers. So we can say in this particular case, there's these 6 particular lights that are part of this case. So I can just scan these in to tell the system that these 6 asset numbers are part of this case. Nearly there. Okay, and once we've set that up, the real benefit of serialized containers is when you're actually scanning things. So instead of having to scan 7 assets individually on this job, all you have to do is scan the parent item of the case and it will automatically scan everything that is part of this case. And as you'll notice here, we do have 2 different container modes here as well. So we have permanent containers and temporary containers. So permanent containers are designed if the assets are always part of this case. They go out in the same case and they come back in the same case. So at this point, the system will always remember the configuration here. And in terms of how the system perceives it, these lights should always go back into the same case that they came from. However, we do also have temporary containers here as well. So we added this to the system following on from feedback from customers that maybe these lights will go out in this particular case, but we might have 5 different cases on the job. So they might go out in this case, but they may actually come back in a different case. So when a container is temporary, when you book out this container on a job, it will then disband it. So that gives you the ability at the end of the job to rehouse these lights in the case that they've been put back in. So you can choose whether you want them to be permanent or temporary. So when it's permanent, it always retains this configuration here. Temporary, it gets rid of it once you've booked it out. And how these actually work on the job is if I just quickly take this particular barcode here, and if I go into my opportunity section, I'm just going to click on one of my jobs here. And if I go into our detail view, I'm going to demonstrate free scan here. But what we can see here is if I just go ahead and scan this particular asset onto the job, it will automatically scan the 6 uplights that are part of that case. So in a singular scan, we scan 7 assets. So it's really helpful in terms of efficiency when you're scanning equipment out of the warehouse, if you do have things that are regularly or temporarily housed together. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in terms of serialized containers. And what I want to show you next is inventory count. So inventory count can be found within resources, and we can go into inventory check here. So inventory check, it is called stock check in the UK and Australia. So if I ever refer to anything as a stock check, it's an inventory check. And so this can be used to identify discrepancies within your system. So as an example, the system may think that we have 9 of a product, but in reality, we only have 7 available. So this inventory check, it allows us to actually go through everything in our warehouse and make sure that the system figures are exactly what we have available. And so in terms of doing this inventory check, we can create one in this top right-hand corner. And the first thing we have here is a subject. So let's just say that I want to do, I can't spell. Let's just say that I want to do an inventory check for my lighting equipment. The first thing we've got here is the inventory check date. And this is a very important part of this check, because what we'd recommend doing is only checking something that you can get done within the space of a day. The reason why that is because the system uses this date to search through all of your jobs and see what items are currently out on jobs at the moment. So if anything's out on a job as of the 24th, the system will immediately mark that as okay for you. So it's smart enough to know exactly what's out on a job at the moment, so that technically what you should be searching for is everything that is in your warehouse. And in terms of actually checking, you can actually check a product, you can check a product group, so a range of products. You can also use tags here as well. If you want to just check everything within your system, you can leave these options blank and it will just give you an inventory check for absolutely everything. We do also have the ability to auto return bookings as well. So what that's used for is, say if we forgot to check something in on a prior job, when this is set to yes, when we scan something on our inventory check, the system knows, okay, so this has come back into our warehouse, so it must have arrived back from the previous job that it was on. So the system will then go ahead and automatically check it in on the previous job that the product was on. But once we're happy with the configuration of this page, we can go ahead and create an inventory check here. And so as you can see here, when we do that, what it will actually do is it will take everything in my lighting group and it will mark it as lost. So at this point, it's up to us and our warehouse team to go through the system and find everything here. And so when you find equipment, all you need to do is scan it to say we've got it. So in this example here, we've got DIM 1006. And if I scan that to say I've received that back, as you'll see, it will disappear off my lost list. And if I scroll down, it will then be here on our OK list. So you can just continuously go through everything, scan all of your serialized products once you've got them. And for bulk stock items as well, you can just enter in the product name and the quantity counted to say we found 100 of these, and it will adjust this inventory check for you. Once you've actually completed this inventory check, the final step here is to submit the changes down the right-hand side. And so when you submit the changes, what it will do is it will take everything that's lost on this list and write it off in your system. So in the example that I spoke about earlier, if the system thinks that we have 9 of a product, but we only have 7 available, 2 of those assets will appear as lost here. So all we need to do is submit the changes. It will write off those 2 lost items to say, okay, so we only have 7 of that product available. And that's really helpful across everyone in your business, because even your sales team, when they're quoting for things, they then know that they only have 7 to quote for rather than the 9 that they thought that they had. And what I want to get into next is custom views. So when we were building that opportunity, and I spoke about the extended scheduler dates, so we can put in dates for prep, for load, and everything like that. I spoke that you can create your own custom views to actually give the warehouse team a view of everything that needs to be prioritized in terms of prep. So this is what I want to show you next. So you can create that by going into your opportunities. And to create custom views, all you need to do here is hover over the word view under the search bar. And we have this option to create to the right. And so this is where we can actually create our own custom views within the system. So let's just say that I want to see maybe all jobs that need to be prepped this week. I can give that a name. We then have attributes here as well. So the attributes are the columns of data we want to see on this particular report. So maybe we want to see the customer. We may want to see the delivery address, so maybe the street, the city, and the zip code. And finally, the most important thing, we want to see the prep start date on this report. And you can reorder these as well. So if you want to reorder these columns, say if I wanted prep start date to be the second column on this report, all you need to do is move that up and down. As we move on, we then have filters here. So we can filter down for the exact information that we want. So from this point of view, we may only want to see confirmed jobs. So we can just tick orders, and that will only give us all of our confirmed bookings that need to be prepped. And the final step here is criteria. So we do have filters here that give you kind of, a few options of how you can filter down data, but criteria is very detailed as to how you can filter down data, because you can filter it down based on any of these values here. So if I wanted to go into this criteria, I can actually say, I want to see everything where the prep start date, we'll just say is the next 7 days. Again, you can put in custom date ranges here as well. So we can say the prep start date is after today, but you can also say the prep start date is after today, but it's before the first day of December, or things like that. So these views here, they are really helpful for both the warehouse team, but you can also use these to create sale reports as well for a defined period of time. Let's just say we want the prep start date is the next 7 days. And if I create that custom view, as you can see here, this will give me a list of everything that needs to be prepped this week. And if all of these dates aren't already in order, we can actually reorder these here as well. So the one that needs to be prepped first will appear at the top of this page. We've got all of this information straight away, so that we can see at a glance what needs to be prepped, and we can just click straight into that job to start prepping that equipment. So that's our custom views. And the last feature that I want to show you today is testing and inspection. So depending on the type of gear that you rent, you may need to test or inspect your kit every so often to ensure that it is safe to use. So popular tests for our customers include PAT, Lola, Test and Tag, depending on where you are in the world. So our built-in testing and inspection module gives you the ability to record and keep that history of all of your previous inspections. So in terms of going about setting this up, the first thing you need to do is go to your system setup. And from here, we can scroll down to our inspections. And from here, like I said, we've got a couple of inspections in here already, but if you want to add a new inspection, you can just do that in the top right-hand corner. What I'm going to do here is just show you how this one has been configured. So in this example, we've got a PAT test that is due every 3 months. We can also state whether this is active. So that just basically means whether it's live in the system or not. So if at a certain date in the future we don't want this to be active anymore, we can just set that to no, and it will disable the inspection within your system. We also do have mandatory here. So mandatory means that the test is enforced by the system. So when an inspection is mandatory, if you try to scan an asset onto the job that has an overdue inspection, the system will actually point blank block you from scanning that onto the job. Whereas if that's set to no, it's just advisory. So if you scan something where a test is overdue, the system will warn you using the orange box in the top right-hand corner to tell you that the test is overdue, but you can still scan that onto the job. So that's just whether you want it to be enforced or not. And then finally, we do have auto pass new assets here as well. So that's just used if you have new equipment that you buy in. So if you bought in new equipment and you don't feel the need to test it, just set that to yes, and it will automatically pass it once it's been added to your system. And from here, we can also create the mini tasks for the different types of things that we want to record as part of this test. So I've given a few examples here, but the different types of information you can record here. So we have a string field, which is just like this name box up here. So it's like a small text field. We have a number field, so that's a number only field. So if you try to type letters in, the system won't allow you to do it. We then have Boolean, so that's a tick box or a toggle box. And we also do have list of values here as well. So that's just a drop-down menu. So within your system setup, again, you can configure all of the different options in your drop-down menus if you wanted to do that. But once you set up this particular inspection, you can go ahead and create that. And once you've created it, the next step is to tell the system the exact serialized products that have this test applicable to them. So if I go back into my usual serialized product, so our MacBook Pro, we can go into this and we can edit this using the pencil icon at the top. And from here, we can scroll down and we can see our tests and inspections here. So if we want a PAT test applicable to this particular product, we can just tick that, update the product. So that's been set up against this particular product. If you do have a lot of products that you need to apply tests to, the quickest way to do it may be to export your product data, update the spreadsheet, and re-import it back into the system to do it en masse. So if you are interested in that, you can always pop up on the green help bubble, and we can provide more guidance on how you can do that. But from there, we can go from resources to testing and inspection. And this will give us a list of all the assets that need testing within our system. So from there, we can click test. We can enter in all of the results here, so whether it's passed, all of the mini tasks that we have here. You have attachments here as well, so if you have any accompanying evidence, you can go ahead and add that in there. And another really cool thing about this is once you've actually recorded everything as part of this inspections module, you can actually generate documents against your job. So say if you've got 20 assets on a job, you can actually send your customer an inspection certificate that says, these are the dates when all of these assets were tested. These are the results. So the customer knows straight away that everything has been tested and is in good condition. So yeah, that pretty much rounds up all of the different features that I wanted to talk about today that could be handy for a warehouse operation. So please remember that we do have other webinars coming in the series, including a sales focused one, as well as a session focused on our newer feature releases. We will be sending out a feedback form. And so if you do have a minute, we really would appreciate your insight as to maybe things that we could improve, as well as other topics that you would like us to cover in future webinars. Today we have been through quite a few different areas of the system, but as I mentioned at the start, we will send out this recording to you so that you can rewind things, rewatch them at your own leisure. Please remember that we do also offer free training sessions. So if you go to our website, which is current-rms.com, in the top right-hand corner, we do have the book a demo button here. And if I click into this, what we have here is the demo. So the demo is just a general 1 hour overview of the entire system. But we also do have training sessions here as well. So training sessions are more specific. So you can actually write your own notes in here. So whether that's specific areas that you want to go through or maybe specific questions that you have on the system, we can jump into the session and then tailor that to you based on your notes. If you're not already part of our customer community, you're also welcome to sign up for a free 30-day trial on our website. So that's just in the top right-hand corner. and we will be on hand to help you get up and running throughout that time. So we do offer really good support. So if you ever do need us, you can pop up on that green help bubble, but also we'll be giving you calls and hopefully encouraging you to book in a demo so that we can talk about how Current can work for your business. If you do have any follow-up questions, please just pop up on that green help bubble again, and we'll be happy to run through anything that you guys may need. But most of all, I just want to say that I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to sit through everything today. For all of our American customers, I hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And for everyone else, no matter where you're on the world, I hope you have a great night or day. But thank you very much. Take care.